Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Dangers of Opened Windows. The 15th of August 2022. Canterbury, England. 2 months after the attack, Sean felt the anxiety afflicted him, and stirred up in striking waves that seemed to smash into him for a moment before passing. He felt like the ground and the entire world would collapse around him. His chest might even explode, and he was completely alone for those moments. Until the anxiety passed, and everything returned back to normal. It wasn't really a way to live, but at least the therapy was helping. Sean leant against the warm wooden doorframe of his and his boyfriend Harry's bedroom, with Harry an almost dangerously thin line under the thin blue silk sheets in their double bed, surrounded by some fine wooden chests of drawers, wardrobes, and there was even a wooden black chest at the bottom of the bed. Yet the roaring of Harry's snorting still managed to vibrate the spotlight like lights in the corners of the bedroom, but Sean was just glad for any sounds coming from him. Because they all meant that the love of his life was alive, and that was all that mattered to Sean. Sean never really did understand why his Auntie Betty English, a private eye, had gifted them so much stuff when him and Harry moved in to help them recover after the homophobic attack. He partly supposed that it was because she felt guilty for some stupid reason. It was never her fault, and it was her that had put the bastards behind bars forever. Something rustled downstairs, but Sean ignored it. It was probably just the neighbor cat, after some of Betty's tuna again. If anything, it should be Sean's own mother and father who should feel guilty for what they didn't do. Even after Sean's mother's meltdown a few weeks ago, where she confessed that she never wanted children so early anyway, Sean had wanted them to fix their issues. But they hadn't. Sean actually didn't mind that too much, as bad as it sounded. He loved his Auntie Betty, and it was great to help out around the massive and expensive house as Betty and her boyfriend Graham, a cop, prepared for the arrival of their twins. The only problem with Harry being so tired after coming back from brain therapy was that it just meant he slept alone. Sean wasn't exactly a massive fan of that, because it meant him and Harry didn't have too much time for talking, making love and catching up on their days. Yet considering that the first 6 months of brain therapy was the most important in making sure that Harry made a complete recovery, it was always far better to sacrifice these months with him now, than possibly lose him forever. Not that it really mattered anyway, considering Sean would love Harry no less. "House is empty, mate," someone said. Sean froze and just focused on the thin line that was Harry under the sheets. Someone was clearly in the house. They were probably in the kitchen, and making their way towards him. Sean couldn't have them in here. What if they were going to beat him again? What if these people would finish the job of killing him and Harry? What if? 1, 2, 3. Sean forced himself to take slow breaths until he counted to 10 and he needed to focus. Betty and Graham wouldn't be back for hours yet, because they were in London at some big fundraising event for a charity. It was just Sean and Harry here for a while, and Sean couldn't risk waking Harry because he had another day of therapy tomorrow, so he couldn't be tired for that. Sean was alone. He had to protect his soulmate, and he wasn't going to let some criminal idiots dare defile his auntie's house. Sean took out his smartphone and quickly texted Betty that people were in the house. The smart thing might have been to call the police, but considering it was 2 police cops that had beaten him and caused Harry's brain damage, that was a last resort. "Mate, look at these pictures. That woman might be old, but she's banging. Wanna wait for her to come home," someone said. Sean's hands formed fists. How dare they talk about his auntie like that? Sean forced his gaze away from Harry, and turned to focus on the very long bright wooden hallway with the long wooden staircase with an iron railing down at the end. There was nothing in the other rooms that shot off from the hallway that would help him. The only thing that could help Sean now was to confront the criminals and get them to leave. Sean carefully tiptoed down the hallway, making sure to focus on the top of the staircase in case one of the criminals was coming up. He couldn't get caught just yet. He couldn't entirely understand how the criminals had gotten in. Granted, he had left the kitchen window open because it was too hot, and he had cooked himself a chicken curry, so he hated to get rid of the smell. But surely 2 criminals couldn't climb in through a window. Sean reached the top of the staircase, and normally its smooth wooden features looked so stylish, calm and great. But today Sean wasn't pleased with them. They made the house look too luxurious and like the perfect target for criminals. Sean slowly started to go down the stairs. All he needed to do was reach the bottom of the stairs, and look round the right-hand corner into the living room to see what was going on. "Mate, what you wanna do if there's someone here? We got a lot of stuff to search and steal," someone said. Now he was closer. Sean knew that the mate speaker, the only one he had heard so far, was definitely a young male. "We make sure they don't tell on others. Boss wants us to make sure this bitch knows not to mess with us," a slightly older female voice said. Sean's heart started to pound. What if they were killers? What if they were dirty cops? What if they were going to beat him so badly he was brain damaged too? Sean's world started to spin. This couldn't be happening again. He couldn't survive another piece of trauma. Not now, not ever. These people were going to finish him off. Sean felt the entire house move around him, like it was going to smash down on him. Killing him. 1, 2, 3. This was absolutely ridiculous, and Sean was going to end this now. He was not having some idiot scare his auntie, rob her house and endanger the man he loved. That wasn't happening.
Well, 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 a young woman said from the bottom of the stairs.
Damn it. This is why he hated himself and his anxiety and those stupid cops. That had made him into this incapable idiot that was useless when he was alone, and not next to his amazing auntie.
But Sean wasn't stupid.
He didn't speak. He only focused on the young woman in front of him and most importantly how to overpower her, all whilst keeping a good few meters from her and the small pocket knife she was carrying. She definitely wasn't the prettiest of young women, with her deadly black eyes and horribly dirty blue jeans and t-shirt. She didn't look happy to be here, but Sean had seen the coldness in her eyes plenty of times before. She hated him. And he hated her. "Get up," the young woman said. Sean didn't react or move. She wasn't in control here, and most people would focus on the small knife at this time, but Betty had made sure to teach Sean why that was always a bad idea. Focus on the person, so he knew what she looked like for a description later on. And the knife wouldn't be the first sign of trouble. It would always be the idiot holding in. "Get up now," the young woman said. Sean slowly nodded, and he almost liked hearing the sheer amount of annoyance, rage and anger in her voice. Whoever this woman was, she never wanted Sean to be here. Sean went down the stairs and hooked a right into Betty's beautiful living room, and normally the massive TV hanging on the white walls, the cream-colored 3-seater sofa and 2 armchairs centered around a brown coffee table were normally so bright and loving and comforting. But the mere presence of the strangers seemed to make the entire room seem sadder, lonelier, with a slight shade of anger. That was properly what Sean was feeling, but he was just determined to get these young idiots out of the house. "Yo, mate," a young man said from the opposite side of the living room as he came in from the kitchen carrying real silverware. Sean had to admit the young man was rather hot, considering he was wearing tight black jeans, a loose-fitting t-shirt that highlighted how muscular he was behind it, and he had longish black hair. But now Sean had both of the idiot criminals in his sights. He just knew that he had to focus and make sure both of them were captured.
"Sit," the young woman said.
Sean smiled. "I'm not a dog. What do you two want?" Sean was a little disturbed that the young man was just staring in utter confusion at him. It was probably something to do with Sean's blonde hair with stylish streaks of pink running through it, but he didn't care what this criminal scum thought of his hair. He was going to have them both suffer. Sean felt the icy coldness of the point of a blade jab into his shoulder. "I said sit," the young woman said. "Then I will tell you exactly what we are doing, and how you are going to help us." Sean highly doubted that, but the criminals were willing to talk, so he carefully sat down on the sofa, making sure to keep both of them in sight. The young woman sat on the coffee table. "We are here because our boss wants your auntie to leave her alone," the young woman said. Sean was impressed that she knew he was her nephew, but given how Betty wasn't only a private eye, but the president of the British Private Investigator Federation, it was only strange that someone hired these two. It couldn't be related to a case because Betty had only been doing background checks constantly for the past few weeks, because she was due to give birth next month. Sean seriously doubted it was anything to do with the Federation, because Betty had been so focused on rebuilding it, after all the corruption and whatnots of the last president.
"And breaking in will help you how?"
Sean asked. The young woman asked. "Our boss can get anywhere. Our boss is superior. Our boss is prob useless little old lady takes advantage of children need love, support, respect," Harry said from the doorway. Sean's heart shot into his throat. He was impressed how much better his speech was coming along. He didn't want him down here. He only wanted Harry to be safe. The young woman grinned. "Excellent. We have the boyfriend and the nephew. The boss will be so pleased." Then it twigged to Sean that they were never going to rob the house. This was actually all about him and Harry, and they were probably going to take them hostage, or threaten them until Betty agreed to leave them alone. Sean admired the stupidity of their boss because he just knew that any threats made against him and Harry would be met with rage, a manhunt and strict retribution. But Sean admired people's willingness to doom themselves. Sean stood up. Now that he had some idea of what the two criminals wanted, he just needed to break them up, and weaken whatever hold the young woman had over the other one. If he was to act, then Sean needed them not to be a team.
"I know you don't respect the boy over there," Sean said, pointing to the young man.
"You see him as a pointless burden that your boss made you bring him along. I think he isn't the brilliant tool in the workshop." The young woman nodded. "Of course not. I come from a quality background, not some council estate where idiots call each other mate, bro and dude." The young man stomped his foot. He was clearly annoyed. Sean looked at Harry, who was extremely beautiful standing there, and they just winked at each other. Sean's pretended his heart pounded. His breathing quickened. He clutched his chest. Sean hissed and screamed and panicked. The young woman looked shocked and panicked herself. Sean collapsed to the sofa, pretending to have a panic attack. Harry shouted at them. The young woman dropped the knife. She rushed to Sean, leaning over him. Sean kicked her, punching her in the chest. She flew to the ground. Sean leapt up, jumping on top of her. Sean pinned her down. The young man whacked Sean in the head. The young woman threw Sean off her. Sean jumped up. The moment he saw the young woman holding Harry in a headlock, with a small knife kissing his neck, Sean stopped. The young man put Sean in a headlock too, a rather pathetic one but still, and Sean just felt like he was a complete and utter failure. He had put the love of his life in danger, and for what? His own insecurities about the corrupt police that had put him in hospital, his own anxiety and God knows whatever concerns he had, that made him feel like he was the only one that could protect himself, and that no one else cared about him. Then the living room got a little brighter. No one else seemed to notice, and Sean couldn't understand if the bright tones of the living rooms were actually brighter than before, but they just felt like they did. Sean just knew that something was about to happen, and he really needed to distract them. "Your boss doesn't love you, you know. She might have found you on the streets or whatever, but she actually hates you," Sean said. The young woman seemed furious. Sean hated the sound of the young man's breathing in his ear. "And you," Sean said to the young woman. "If your beginnings were so great, then why were you on the street to be found?" The young woman's hand tensed. She gestured she would kill Harry, but Sean knew that would only anger her boss. "I think you were just a jumped-up child that no one wanted, and you wanted to get respect from another person that doesn't even love you," Sean said coldly. The young woman threw Harry onto the sofa. She stormed over to Sean, waving the knife about. "I am loved. The boss loves me. She treasures me and—" The front door exploded open. Sean jumped back, smashing the young man into the wall. His head cracked on the wall. He released Sean. Sean spun around, punching the man in the nose. He collapsed to the ground. And when Sean looked at where the young woman had been standing, he saw one of the most perfect sights he ever could have wished for, because Graham in his fine black suit was handcuffing the young woman and reading her rights. A few moments later, after Graham had escorted the young man and woman out of the house, Sean just smiled as a very pregnant Betty English stumbled through the front door. Sean had to admit she did look stunningly beautiful in her large black dress that managed to make her massive baby bump seem so stylish, and she simply hugged Sean and Harry. Sean loved the amazing warmth of the hug, and he was glad that they had arrived when they did, and more importantly that beautiful Harry was okay. Then Sean noticed the evil smile on Betty's face, and Sean looked up at the ceiling and noticed a very small black camera right above his head. "You knew this would happen," Sean said. Betty shrugged as she stumbled over to the armchair. "Didn't you think it was odd that the kitchen window didn't lock properly?" Betty asked. Sean hadn't even noticed.
That created the perfect opening for them to come in.
"I knew you two were smart enough to stay safe until we arrived, and you got us the proof we needed," Betty said. "Proof what?" Harry asked. 2 days ago, I ran a background check for a government role, and it highlighted that criminal gangs were trying to get jobs in the UK government, and someone was helping them." Sean just nodded. It was just getting too ridiculous with the government for words. "So after some investigating," Betty said, "me and Graham managed to track down the extra help to an orphanage and homeless shelter in London, and the owner, a little old lady I should note, had powerful friends in the government." Sean nodded. This woman was doing favors for her friends, by getting the vulnerable children she cared for to do her dirty work for her, or to protect her criminal friends in the government. Betty nodded. Sean looked at beautiful Harry, who was hugging him, and Sean was slightly getting more and more concerned about how thin he was getting, but that was all part of the therapy process. Sean kissed Harry's soft, amazing lips quickly and then pointed to the stairs. It was a little gesture they both did when they knew the other needed to go to sleep. Sean was never going to have Harry tired when he had a brain therapy day tomorrow. He just loved him too much for that. Sean was about to follow Harry up when Betty gently took his hand in hers. "You did well today, you know," Betty said. "Your mum might not say it or be here, but I am proud of you and love you." Sean knew his auntie never understood the power of those words to him, but after hiding he was gay for so many years and all the bad mental health associated with it, being attacked by the people who were meant to protect everyone, and now his own parents not seeming to care about him. Those words meant everything to Sean. Sean kissed Betty on the head. "You're going to be an amazing mum." Betty only nodded, and she was probably holding back the tears, both in joy but also panic that her life was going to change forever in less than a month, and Sean simply went upstairs. Sean might have done a great thing today that proved to him he was always more than his anxiety, past and the pain of what had happened.
But there was always more to work on in the future.
Right now he had a beautiful boyfriend to help, love and cherish, and a wonderful auntie to help with a pair of twins coming. That would probably be a lot for most 21-year-olds to take, but Sean honestly couldn't think of a better way to spend his time. Not a single better way at all.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Colin Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing creating stories and sharing them with you. If you enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ConnorWhiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.